Asgard, home of the mighty Norse gods. In a throne room of the Imperial Palace, young Thor tries unsuccessfully to lift the hammer Mjolnir with the company of Sif and Balder, Thor's best friends and fierce warriors themselves. Only the worthy can lift the hammer, and Thor knows that he will be worthy someday. Sif points out that Loki will certainly not be worthy because of his mischievous ways. Loki is half-brother to Thor, adopted by Odin. Loki listens to the conversation from afar without them noticing, and with hatred he uses his magic to unleash 3 giant spiders upon them. The 3 warriors fight together to bring down the spiders with ease. Odin shows up, and after Thor and the other 2 young warriors explain what just transpired, Odin requests their presence in the throne room at sunset, asking Thor to bring his brother Loki as well. As requested, they turn up at the throne room, this time accompanied by Loki. Odin tells them it's time for their first quest and asks them if they feel ready. Thor answers for the 4 of them. Odin feels honored, but tells them Loki will not be joining them, for Loki will be cleaning the trophy room of the dead spiders that mysteriously appeared from thin air. The quest given to the 3 young warriors is to retrieve 4 mystic elements from 4 different places, to forge a new enchanted sword which once cast, Odin will bestow upon the Asgardian warrior most deserving of it. The elements being a scale from the dragon Akira in Nastrand, a feather from the wing of the snow eagle Nori in Jotunheim, a jewel from Genia, and lastly, a small vial of water from the lake of Lilitha. They accept without question, and the next morning Odin's son Thor and his 2 friends begin their journey while a strange figure watches them from a mysterious magic instrument. In the hidden hills of Asgard, Thor, Balder and Sif are just beginning their journey, but conflict arises between them because Balder and Sif feel disrespected by Thor accepting this quest in their name without even asking them for their opinion. Thor, frustrated with this issue, questions their loyalty, pointing Balder out for not being a true warrior in refusing a challenge set by Odin. To this, Sif lashes out at Thor, questioning him if being a female makes her less of a warrior than the 2 boys. Thor and Balder, puzzled by the fury of Sif, remain silent while she takes the lead, only to be surprised by the dragon Akira, laughing at their surprise and unleashing his fire breath upon them. The 3 warriors escape the dragon's fire. They didn't expect him to be here, and they realize the dragon knew they would be coming for him. Thor rushes to challenge the dragon in the name of his father. The dragon acknowledges that he knows well who Thor is and where he comes from. A battle ensues between them, the dragon and the 3 warriors. Thor gets knocked out, so Sif distracts the dragon, while Balder checks on Thor, who rises again, and together they formulate a plan. They work together to bring down Akira, and Thor finally does it, thrusting his sword in the dragon's head. They celebrate together for the success in defeating the dragon, and Thor apologizes to his 2 friends for his attitude earlier. The 3 warriors take a scale from the mighty dragon and question themselves how could he have known of their coming, suggesting that someone might have told him. As before, Loki spies on them from afar, and once again the 4 of them are being watched magically by a strange figure. in the frozen mountains of Jotunheim, enveloped by a snowstorm, once again Thor and Balder start a fight because of this mad quest Thor accepted for them. Sif joins the argument after Thor pushes Balder. Thor gets mad at Sif for siding with Balder and expresses his discontent with their constant whining about respect and acceptance, proceeding alone and leaving his two friends behind. Somewhere else, the strange figure that magically spies on them rejoices with this conflict. It sees her plan to split them up, but they are doing it by themselves. Balder and Sif catch up to Thor, and Balder tries to reason with him, and at the same time, they are attacked by what seems like small icy pixies. They fight at first without success, but Balder and Sif figure out their weaknesses and tactics, pushing the elementals to their surrender. They question themselves who could have summoned them, much like the dragon knew of their coming. Sif points out that Loki is the only one who could possibly know about the quest, but Thor refuses this. Before another argument starts, the Snow Eagle Nori arrives and welcomes them as the king of the Snow Eagles and friend to Odin. Thor questions Nori of the attack by the elementals from before, but Nori only admits to being responsible for the storm, saying that only one powerful in magic could summon such beings, and that Asgard must beware such formidable forces. Nori warns Balder that love may one day be his downfall. Sif questions Nori what he means by this. The eagle appreciates how keen are Sif's senses, much like her brother Heimdall, the guardian of the Bifrost. Nori warns her that there is no destiny set in stone, and that there is no future that cannot be changed, and with these possibilities, they must choose their path wisely. Nori gives them one of his feathers, bids them farewell, and flies away. Departing from the mountains, Thor questions the possibility of Loki being behind the attack, but at the same time realizing that he lacks the magic abilities necessary. Thor refuses to abandon the quest, and despite the troubles and Nori's warnings, the three move on, while far behind them, Loki follows, concealed by the power of invisibility. Thor, Balder and Sif rest by a lake shore, with the lurking Loki failing to cause mischief between them. At sunset, the strange figure continues to magically spy on our three friends and acknowledges the possibility to recruit the lurking Loki. The next day, the three young warriors continue their journey, this time to Genia. In the desert, arriving at the mines of Genia, Sif is swallowed by the sands, followed by Thor, and finally by Balder. Loki reveals himself laughing at the hero's fate, just to be engulfed by the sands the same way. After a while, the three young warriors find themselves passed out in a mysterious cave. Thor wakes up and is startled by where he finds himself. They are surrounded by small glowing beings, and Thor starts to fight them only to be engulfed by them. Sif wakes up and finds herself much like Thor, but this time Balder is awake too, and wisely advises them to control their emotions. These small creatures are the Genia, and they feed on powerful emotions, like Thor's anger and Sif's fear. Thor and Sif relax at the advice of Balder, and the creatures retreat. Before they leave the cave, Sif finds one of the jewels they came here for, and leaving the cave with the jewel, Thor praises Balder's power of observation, and Balder explains that before they were swallowed by the sands, they expressed emotions, like Sif's desire for a jewel of her own, and Thor's anger of seeing his friend vanish. In turn, but not revealed to Thor and Sif, Balder was swallowed by the sands for his jealousy of Sif and Thor being alone together. This is why Odin needed the Genia jewel, to provide balance to the sword and to the bearer. Balder believes the jewels are the hardened hearts of Genia who have passed on. Sif thanks Balder for his wisdom with a friendly kiss, and the three friends move on with their journey, now to Lilitha. To conclude, in a strange place, Loki finds himself tied into a wall. He hears someone approaching, telling him that he is finally awake after being rescued from Genia. Rescued by Karnilla, the Northern Queen, the stranger who's been magically spying on Thor and his two friends. As the three young warriors traverse the forests of Lilitha, Balder notices how there's no life left in the trees. Loki magically appears from nowhere and startles the three warriors, asking for help, and explains that Karnilla, the Norn Queen, seeks to kill their father and claim Asgard as her own. She was the one who hindered their journeys, to use Thor as a pawn in her plan to bring ruin to Odin's throne. Instead, she captured Odin's adopted son, Loki. Loki tells them he refused his offer, but Karnilla kissed him and vowed that the attack on Asgard will continue despite his refusal. Sif lashes out at Loki not believing in his lies. Loki tells her that he managed to escape Karnilla because he absorbed the hint of her magic, fought his way out, and made his way to Lilitha to find them. Loki begs for forgiveness while admitting to his mischief during their quest, and tells Thor that any hatred he feels for the three of them is outweighed by his love for his father Odin. Thor asks Sif and Balder to go back to Asgard and warn Odin and take Loki with them, while he continues to the lake to draw the water needed for the enchanted sword. Sif kisses Thor farewell and they go their separate ways. On his way to the lake, Thor is attacked by a rock leviathan. But he easily defeats the monster. Thor reaches the lake shore and stands in shock, seeing that the lake is dry, concluding that this and the lifeless forest could only be the work of Karnilla. He does not give up, retrieving sand from the bottom of the lake. Thor journeys back home to Asgard and finds himself in the middle of a giant battle, as Asgardian warriors rejoice with the prince's return. Thor joins Sif, Balder, Loki, and Odin in battle, and with victory at hand, they celebrate. But Karnilla arrives and shoots an arrow through Thor's chest. From celebration to grieving, Sif and Balder cry, holding the body of Thor. Amidst the confusion, Karnilla departs from the scene to face Odin in his throne room. Odin engages her in battle with Mjolnir in hand. They exchange blows, but Odin gains the upper hand. Odin strikes her with a mighty blow, which shoots her out from the building into the square of the Allfather. In shock, Odin sees his son laying on the ground and approaches the scene, embracing his son's body and asking his forgiveness for sending him on the quest that ultimately sent him to his death. Odin grieves for his son's life as he picks up the vessel with the sands of the dry lake of Lilith from Thor's belt and pours them on top of his son's body. As Odin, Balder and Sif share the pain of this tremendous loss, a single tear from Sif drops on the sand and magically turns the sand into water right on the wound, and at this very moment Thor wakes up, startling everyone around him. Surprised, Thor pulls the arrow out of his chest as the magical waters heal his wound. His father helps him off the floor as all rejoice his return back from death, and explains to Thor the power of the sands of the lake Lilith joined with the power of love. Loki, who was in the background, is grabbed by a wounded Karnilla with a dagger at his throat. Karnilla addresses Odin, Thor and his friends of the fact that no one will miss the trickster because of all the mischief he caused. But Balder points out that it was Loki who saved Asgard by warning them of her evil plans. Karnilla questions how they could defend someone so dirty as her, and at this, Balder offers his life instead of Loki's. Incredulous, Karnilla vanishes in frustration for not being able to complete her evil plans, faced with something she never knew existed. A month later, in a banquet, Odin presents the enchanted sword forged with the 4 elements the 3 young warriors brought from their quest, names it Svadren, and bestows it to Balder, the Brave, for reminding everyone the value of mercy and compassion.